On this episode of the podcast, we have on Marc Sadowski, formerly of Tiny Shutter, currently of We'll Find Out, as we talk about what we've all been doing, our recent photos, and what's coming up in the future.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. David Podner.
What? What's going on? We have guest. Hold on. Hey, Mom! The meatloaf!
Oh, wow. That you have successfully told a joke that no one ever will get.
Oh, no.
Except for one person in the audience.
Exactly.
And to that, I say, happy birthday, Craig.
Yes, happy birthday, Craig. And I had absolutely no idea what Dave was going to do. All I knew is that he was going to do something.
I wish I still had the soundbite.
It was worth the wait. So how you doing, Mark?
I'm doing okay. How about yourself?
Good. We're good. Welcome to the show again. Stranger to the podcast, obviously. And I just want you to know one thing. No matter what we talk about tonight, you'll always be the boss.
Oh, God, no.
Because only you can fire us.
I have happily passed the torch to you guys. And you guys have been doing a phenomenal job carrying the iPhone photography. It has been tremendous to see what you've done with the feed. You're back live on now on YouTube. Back in the day with Tiny Shutter, God, we started live streaming on Justin TV way back in the day, and then switched to Ustream, I think, and then some other service. Possibly, I might be delusional because I can't. My memory doesn't go back that far. The warranty right now. And then we just stuck to just going recording and just posting the podcasts. And yeah, it's been a long strange trip, but I mean, you're doing super well. I'm so happy to see what you've done.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been fun, and it's going to be fun. Don't get me wrong, folks. We ain't going nowhere.
No.
But
we are not pod fading.
No, that's just for some reason Dave and I just can't seem to do that. and I mean, Dave is on other podcasts as well. So
that's amazing. And dude, you probably have done the thing that I have never been able to do and be on This Week in Photo. That was awesome to hear your episode.
Well, thanks. That was a lot of fun. And Frederick and I will be getting together again to do basically like a continuation of that.
It's amazing.
Now that the 15 Pro has been out for quite a while. And we just got to get our schedules aligned. We tried to do it around the new year, but I was sick and just didn't work out. But yeah, there will be a part 2 to that at some point. And I had a thought. What was I going to say? Oh, well, it'll come to me.
That was an interesting show to listen to, because when you mentioned a few things, I'm like, you forgot to mention this. You forgot to mention.
Well,
and I couldn't.
I will say I was a little nervous.
Oh, God. I mean, how long have we been listening to that show? I mean, I've listened to that show on and off for,
boy.
As long as we were doing podcasting. It's
and we're talking Frederick here.
Totally. The man with the voice of James Earl Jones / Jesus Christ. It's like, how can that is like a voice you can just butter bread with. It is.
Yeah.
He is just such an amazing talent and an awesome presence for photography.
But let's face it though, Mark, you have had the F4 group on your podcast.
I did.
Yes. No, come on. That's pretty impressive. And I tried to get Gavin to come on here one time, and he said maybe someday, but he's just not ready to do it yet.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
Yeah, just because he uses a phone. He did 2 or 3 videos with a phone, not an iPhone, but still a phone. And I thought, okay, that's worth getting him on because it's freaking photo tripper.
Oh yeah, I mean I've had him on a couple times. One with the F4 group and one without.
Yeah.
But for the audience listening, the F4 group has much like the Beatles. They have now disbanded.
Yeah,
but it is a team of Gavin Hardcastle, an amazing landscape photographer. Thomas Heaton, he is also a tremendous photographer. Nick Page, he's okay. He's a Sony. And, no,
he's actually over in the
too.
UK with Thomas right now doing some stuff.
Yeah. And then Adam Gibbs, who is the distinguished gentleman of the group because he is
the Zen master
photographer. Oh yeah, and the Zen stuff. But oh my God! So the whole thing about the F4 group is that they had gotten together for one of Gavin's invitations to the I think the Banff area in Canada. And, and that was just a awesome, funny gag that they did. So essentially, they're doing photography, but they're doing these comedy skits as like a bookend to the photography. And they got together and decided to do this huge, kind of like a tutorial, kind of like a beginner's photography guide for people interested in photography. And I thought it was phenomenal. For anybody that's new to photography, I think it's super helpful stuff. Sadly, the critics, their audiences kind of lambasted it for either A, being too expensive or not technical enough, and they kind of got flack for that. But I thought it was great. So that day when I interviewed them for the Fuji Love podcast, little plug there, I
linking them in the show notes.
Yeah, I interviewed them in the morning, and that evening I was interviewing Pete Souza, who is an amazing, legendary photographer. Like, if there was one day that I was awestruck to talk to somebody, it was that day, because this guy has photographed Obama's presidential terms. He was basically the White House photographer and capturing everything. And he was also the lead, the presidential photographer for Ronald Reagan. And I thought, wow, this guy covered both sides of the fences. I think it would be a great time to have him on the show to talk about what's happening, current politics. And yeah, that was probably the day that the world wanted to crucify me the most. I was branded as too political.
So, oh, really?
Oh God, yeah. It was, but I regret nothing. I got to talk to a photographic hero, and his work, I think, just speaks for itself.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, with Pete, you gotta imagine the amount of things he saw that you can't talk about.
I mean, that's kind of one of the things that we talked about. Like, he was there in the room photographing everybody as they watched the video feed of the raid on Obama. Raid on Obama. Jesus, that's gonna
don't go there. Don't go there.
on Bin Laden. Like, what I meant to say is Obama was there watching.
Right. That literally iconic photo with everyone around the table.
Yep. And
staring at the video feed.
Yeah, it's I mean, just the stuff that he was given access to was incredible. So yeah,
well, he is a fantastic photographer. And you know, so that's the nice thing about doing a podcast about this stuff is the people that you get to meet maybe it's just online. Okay, that's fine. But the people that you get to meet and talk with and get to know a little better. And so, that's why I was a little envious, I guess I could say, when you had the F4 group on there, because I love all of them. I think they're all great. And, I follow them all on YouTube and all that stuff too. So, and Scott Baker in the chat says, talking about Adam Gibbs, he says the cranky old guy.
Uncle Grumpy, yes.
Uncle Grumpy, yeah, yeah.
He's a good guy to talk to. I've had him on the show separately as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's funny the juxtaposition that he has on the channels. On his channel, he is very mellow, very down to earth, very earthy, and then he could just turn on a dime and just be this comedic character on Gavin's channel. It's pretty funny.
It is. It's. I've often pondered that. Like, how does he turn that on and off like that? Because, I mean, you watch his own personal channel and it's so calm, and that's why I called him the Zen Master, because everything's so, laid back and very tranquil. But then you get him on with Gavin, and Gavin just seems to bring that out of him, and anybody else that goes on there, whether it's workshop students or whatever, they always seem to ham it up a bit, and it makes it really entertaining.
I almost got on his show.
Really?
On channel. Yeah. We just couldn't work out a time to hang out. So he made a trip down to this area, but he was going through upstate New York, and I wasn't able to make that trip. I don't remember when he was. I think it was sometime in the fall, and I just had too many weddings to do. I wasn't able to take that time off. But another time I'll have to do a skit with him.
Yeah. So we brought you on, Mark, because you wanted to talk about Tiny Shutter.
Yeah.
So that's basically how, Dave, I think you got your podcasting start with Tiny Shutter. Did you not? Or were you on anything before that?
I'm trying to remember if I was not as a regular person. So Tiny Shutter was the first thing I was on as a regular person. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, obviously same here. I mean, I had never had any podcasting experience prior to starting out just as a guest on Tiny Shutter. And, it got us into it. It got us into podcasting and, when I first started listening, Mark, you and Matt and Joe and then eventually Dave, because he joined before I did. You guys were rock stars to me. And look who's in the chat room, Mr. Matthew Hoffman himself. And he says, "I remember Tiny Shutter." But I mean,
let's say you have to say that in the Pepperidge Farm. I remember Tiny Shutter.
Yeah. But I mean, I learned a lot from you guys then, and then coming on the show, I was able to learn more and learned about podcasting, and then it just went from there. But you've got some news about Tiny Shutter.
Yes, I have finally been able to put the old dog down. I have been wanting for so long to put a bullet in it. But for whatever reason,
it pains me to hear that.
I have always missed. So here's the thing. Tiny Shutter as a podcast, the spirit of the podcast has been passed down to you, to you both. It is, I meant you in the plural sense, of course. It just felt time right to just end it. It just felt like a natural progression of the channel. I mean, the Tiny Shutter is in itself a spin-off of older podcast called The Lens Wipe. And for those of you who are gratefully not able to remember it, it was famously given its subtitle by a 1-star review that we received. The Lens Wipe was always designed to be a very lighthearted photography podcast. We never took anything seriously. We made fun of everything, and it was just something to just kick back and chat about. It was always designed to be conversation, and so the famous tagline was, "We get a 1-star rating," and the person berating us said, "These guys lack focus and direction." And we were reading this on the podcast. I'm like, that has a nice ring to it. The Lens Wipe, as from then on, the Lens Wipe, it was the best description of the podcast. It's a podcast without focus or direction. And we ran with it, and it did pretty well. And at that time, at its height, we were talking about iPhone photography a whole lot, because this is around the time that the iPhone 4 debuted, and we were just glowing at the ability that a cell phone can now take proper photos. It was unheard of to be able to do an 8x10 print off of a cell phone. And it was that wonderful aha moment with Apple. Plus, it had a nice design. It was,
And Matt Hop, just before you go any further, Matt says in the chat room here in the chat on YouTube, his first guest spot on a podcast or a podcast experience was that he had ever was on the Lens Wipe.
Yes. So Matt Hoffman, I forget how we found him. I think so. Back then, in the original times, it was me, another photographer named Keith Tharp, and we were looking for a third person. The person on the Lens Wipe, which was a buddy of mine named Maud Byrne, he was a photographer, but he was kind of already leaning away from photography. He's very much into woodworking and everything, and so he didn't want a cell phone at all at that time, and so we were looking for a third person. So I'm thinking, all right, let's use this little thing called Instagram. We could probably find somebody there. And I did a search, I think, for anybody doing landscape photography in the White Mountains. And I wish I remember the photo. I wish I remember what hashtag I was searching. But I came across Matt's photos. I'm like, this guy's awesome. And I think if my memory is remembering that I saw pictures from his iPhone on the site. And so I'm like, you know what? Perfect. Let's purchase him. And I went to find the buy button. I'm like, oh wait, that doesn't exist yet. And so I reached out to him, and the three of us were quite the trio. And that is when I was super surprised and super jealous of Matt's ability to have this dry humor that was unparalleled. Like it was just comedy genius that I was in awe of and wished I had just like 1/10 of it. And yeah, the podcast had a pretty good success from the beginning. I like to tout that the Tiny Shutter podcast was the best iPhone photography podcast. We were also the only iPhone photography podcast. And a couple people tried to come into the space, but they just never stuck around. And while the Tiny Shutter audience wasn't like crazy huge, we had respectful numbers, and so we were going well. And but here's the secret that I've never shared until now. I was a bit of an asshole. It was, I feel that, like, just going through everything, like, in retrospect, I think Tiny Shutter started a little too quickly. I probably think it, like, if I were to do it again today, would try to do it a little bit more slowly, because we went from Lens Wipe right into Tiny Shutter, and I've always hated the name of the Tiny Shutter podcast. It was never my creation. Keith came up with the Tiny Shutter name, and I was like, all right, that's cool. All right, that's better than mine. I'll give it that. And then before I know it, he registered the domain and everything, and it was just right from the get-go. And so to me, I've always had a little bit of a sore spot with the name. It's my Charles Schultz moment. Charles Schultz famously hated the name Peanuts for his comic strip. And so, he would always, but it stuck. It was something that his publisher gave the name for and went for it. And so that's kind of what I did too. And then, things changed. Keith eventually left the show. And again, I was probably really insufferable. My God, like those years ago, I feel like a different person. And so I've always tried to be less like that person again. And I mean, you live and learn. It's crazy.
Well, I've never considered you an a-hole.
Oh,
I can tell you that.
I hit it well, I guess.
Well, or could it be that we just came on a little bit later?
There is that too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, people change with age. I mean, I started to listen 2015 via Mixler.
Okay. Oh yeah, I remember Mixler. That was the one that we went live on, I think.
Yeah.
Because I remember, because it was on Thursday nights.
Yep.
And I would listen to Tiny Shutter instead of listening to the presidential debates that were on Thursday nights.
we did go head to head with that. That was how we got all of our audience.
Yeah.
Well, and then if it wasn't for Mixler, we never would have known Craig and been able to wish him a happy birthday.
There you go. That's one tradition I am happy to keep going with. And so years went on. I mean, we Keith left, Joe Ferreira came on, and just was able to carry the torch, and then at a certain point, like, I famously, well, not famously, no, wrong choice of words. I personally say that it was time for me to leave the show, because at a certain point, iPhone photography just became photography. It is now mainstream. It is an appropriate tool that people can use. Photojournalists use it as their backup camera. They could blend into a crowd much easier. It is now an amazing video camera. It has been able to film movies and get nominated for awards. It's like it's so that kind of rebellious nature that the Tiny Shutter thrived on was no longer there. It was just, all right, it's another day. I mean, back when Tiny Shutter first started, I mean, the biggest things were, oh my God, look what we could do with this camera now. Look at what, slow shutter camera. Oh, that's awesome. Somebody photographed a wedding with it. Oh, damn. And like that's probably like the biggest feature, my highlight rather for the iPhone, is being able to photograph a wedding using the Hipstamatic app at a wedding that got a lot of publicity at the time. It's my only petapixel feature. Me and Keith Tharp photographed a wedding in Connecticut, and it was a crazy day. And I mean, but that's back when, the iPhone was, it was limited. I mean, the cameras were overheating in our hands practically. You were able to warm a room with it.
And you were using a MacBook as your battery pack, were you?
I was using my MacBook as a battery. Yes. And now you could just, I mean, what Apple famously did, that 8-hour movie that was one continuous motion throughout an art museum. And it's like,
oh yeah.
All right. it's there. It's I mean, it's a viable tool. Which is awesome, but the point is that Tiny Shutter needed to move over, and I am very happy that you and Dave have taken over that realm and are carrying that torch forward. So Tiny Shutter, the podcast ended, the site wasn't getting updated. I held on to the name because of the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel still had not a crazy awesome audience, but it has an audience there. And it's one of those things that I still continued to post on a regular basis, with an asterisk. Regular meaning once or twice a year. But I did it, and it got decent views. And then my style really changed. I started to do less and less iPhone photography, and I was more into Fujifilm photography. That the desire to go back to that filmic look and feel was my calling. But my film days, way back in before the millennium changed to a new number there. In the 90s, I was using point and shoot film cameras and using all sorts of black and white photography for my journalism internship / temporary job for about a semester. We were all taught photojournalism and taught to go out do some photography with it when the lead photographer wasn't available. Even back then, journalism was on a tight ship, tight budget, and so I love those days of the film days. And when I first tried a Fujifilm camera, those days just kind of popped back, because now I was able to photograph without needing to really edit a photo. Everything was done in camera. All the manual controls were there, and the color science for Fujifilm cameras was such that the JPEGs were just beautiful, and the raw files were like, that's okay. And it was like the first time in my photography career that I was like, screw the raw files. I'm just going to stick with the JPEGs.
And I think this is the first time that I've heard you explain that. I know you've been really, you've really enjoyed the film look, like, the film styles in the Fuji cameras. But I never really understood why, other than you just like them. But now it makes sense to me. When you bring, when you bring into the conversation about your past and how you learned with that. And I mean, anybody that's got 40% gray hair has probably used a film camera.
Yeah.
Chances
I mean,
are.
it's making a huge comeback now.
It is. but I mean, I'm glad you explained why you feel the way you do about the Fujifilm cameras and their film sims and that sort of thing, because I think that's important to know, and it's really important to know for those who wondered why you got away from tiny shutter and the iPhone stuff as much. I mean, it's not that you don't use your iPhone, you still use it, but when you practice the craft of photography, it's more Fuji related than anything else at this point. I mean, and it's got you doing a podcast about it, right? I mean, Fujifilm or Fuji Love is a great podcast. You have awesome guests on, and we talked about that earlier. And but no, it's all making sense to me now, and it's okay. It's okay to be that way. I mean, for someone who pioneered the iPhoneography podcast genre, I get it, or the iPhone related, or the iPhone photography genre of a podcast, and now has basically put a stake in its heart. It makes sense. So, it makes sense, and it's okay.
Yeah. So the stake in the heart comes. I mean, years later. Every now and then in our iMessage chats, I would always ask here and there what to call the tiny shutter replacement, because it's always been my desire to change it. And no matter what I came up with, it was always so stupid. It was, and I just couldn't pull the trigger. And the closest that it came was kind of had the spirit of the lens wipe, where in our group chat, I finally just vented like crazy because it was just so frustrating trying to think of something. And I think we all came to liking the name Zero Likes. And and so it's like, you know what, that has a nice ring to it, and that's available. And so I almost went with it, but I'm like, no, that's too meta. And it just got me thinking, no, this would be a perfect replacement to the lens wipe. That would carry the spirit of a nonsense show. And so maybe I'll hang on to that, maybe not. Who knows? If that doesn't work, I could always go back to the meatloaf.
Yeah.
But then I was watching some other stuff. I'm like, I don't know what. I just want something to talk about film photography, but I'm not doing film photography. I'm doing digital photography. It's not film, but it is filmish. and it just like after all these years of trying to find the name, just haunted by the name, the tiny shutter. Like the first thing I do, I'm like, okay, wait a minute, just relax. I can't say this out loud yet, but I can tell Matt. And so I sent him a message because he's been using the Fujifilm system. I got him addicted to that crack. And so,
and he just put in the chat room here. Mark brought me over to Fuji a couple of years ago. I still very much love shooting and editing raw files, but there's no denying that the Fuji JPEG files look amazing.
Totally. And so I run it by him. I'm like, am I crazy? Does this sound like a good name? And he was cool with it. And I'm like, awesome. I need a second opinion. I'm going to call my brother. and so while Matt has an incredible eye for like that humor that he has, and he has a solid understanding of photography and knows firsthand the kind of photography that we're all doing with Fuji. My brother has a good eye or good ear or good head. I don't know, all the senses. He's very big in marketing. So he was like, oh yeah, solid name, go for it. I'm like, All right. That's good. Because I already bought the domain. I already did this. I already did that.
But there's no mistaking though, Mark, that Tiny Shutter was a brand.
It was.
It was a brand because it was the only podcast about iPhone photography at the time, and it went for 9 years.
It had a good run.
That is unheard of in a lot of time, like in a lot of cases with podcasting, unless you have a big name like This Week in Photo or Mac Break Weekly, the things like that have a lot of money behind them and everything else. But Tiny Shutter, we
had no money and still did it.
Well, I know the feeling. It's a labor of love. It really is.
Totally is.
Mm-hmm. It was a brand, and I think that's partially what made it. I'm just guessing here, but that probably made it a little difficult to finally let it go and replace it.
It actually, you know what? I'll always hang on to it. Probably, I'll always hang on to that domain name. Truth be told, it felt good to finally let go of it. It was because it always felt like that last bit that was just pulling at my jacket or pulling at my pant leg. It just like it again. This is probably that asshole in me, but like I wanted to make something that was all my own and be able to say, here it is. I didn't want to have that. The fact that I never created Tiny Shutter's name it bugged me. And so, and I didn't want that hanging on to the back of my mind. So
that makes pretty good sense. I would say, it wasn't your baby. Even though you were basically one of the two that kind of started it all, but you weren't able to name it. And, then it was kind of like the redheaded stepchild for you, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Or more distinctly, and now this is going to date myself. It's like that show, My Two Dads. We just never knew who the father was.
Dave, what do you think of all this? I mean, Tiny Shutter holds a big place in your heart
it
too,
does.
for sure.
It most definitely does. But I understand if you're trying to start something fresh, or you want to say, this is me and I'm going to go off. And by the way, I also have 8 years of this, I don't want to say baggage in a bad way, but you have 8 years of history behind you that it's going to be, if this is the new Tiny Shutter, it's always some comparison, even if it's only internal, to, how is this comparing to old Tiny Shutter? It may even be that little whisper in the back of your head, and you're like, no, this is a new thing. This isn't Tiny Shutter. This isn't after a break, it's coming back. It's a new thing. So you need a new name. You need to say, okay, that was Tiny Shutter. That had its time. That was of a time.
Yep.
Like I said, literally the 4 and the 4S for the iPhone was, we can actually take photos. And if you show it to somebody, it doesn't scream cell phone picture.
Yes.
You can't really say, this is an iPhone, obviously 4S versus a average point and shoot of the time. You would say, and they're about the same quality.
Yep.
And that's what killed the point and shoot.
Yes.
Because it's like, I have a cell phone. Why should I spend $50, $100, $150 back when that was a lot more money back then, 14 years ago or so, for a separate device where I'm probably not going to have that with me all the time anyway. And I'm going to have to then take the SD card out, somehow stick it in my computer, maybe do some editing on it. If I have the software, if I have a Windows machine, who knows? Because there wasn't that much built in. And then how do I upload versus, forget it. I'll just use the phone.
So it's funny that you mentioned that because we've come full circle. Because now people are saying, why the hell am I going to spend $1,000 on this smartphone when I could buy a $200 point and shoot camera and take film that looks really awesome? No need to apply a filter. It's already built in. Yeah. It's funny because Fujifilm, I think, has had it correct the whole time. Their biggest producer of revenue for the company, as far as the photography side goes, is their Instax cameras and film. The little Polaroid things that pop out of the cameras. Mm-hmm. That is their bread and butter as far as photography goes. Back in the day, the Canon, Nikon had point and shoot cameras that would bring in the revenue so that they can make better cameras for the DSLRs, and everything would trickle down to the point and shoot stuff. That is Fujifilm's point and shoot camera, is their point and shoot cameras. And it's one of the things that pops out of their Instax printer when you pop in the cartridge and load the film. The little sun shield pops out, and on it just says Fujifilm, tangible photography. And that is probably like the best description of Fujifilm in this market. It's photography that you can hold, whether it's the literally hold with the Instax printer, Instax pictures, or just get that nostalgic feeling that you could hold on to in the digital cameras. It is a new way of presenting something that's old and tried and true. And the cool thing is that this completely goes hand in hand with iPhone photography, because Fujifilm has done an amazing job of bringing in that iPhone photography with the Instax printers. You can buy a printer that does the little films, the square size or the wide format, and just Bluetooth to a printer and be able to print your photography and be able to hold that photography and share that photography. And it's such an amazing feeling. It's the best thing to share. It just brings a whole new dimension to your photography. And, as long as it can do that, I'm always still going to be an iPhone photographer at heart. But I mean, nowadays the Fujifilm cameras are my stills cameras, but iPhones have done amazing things with the video side. The video side has grown so much more in leaps and bounds compared to the photography side. And so being able to use the iPhone as one of my video cameras for the Filmish channel is absolutely going to continue. And I can't wait to get either the iPhone 15 Pro Max or the 16. I might as well wait for that one to come out, because the ability to do ProRes and be able to finally, at long last, record onto an external drive will go such a long way in the video production that it just makes things super convenient.
Well, you did a video, I believe it was like an engagement video for a couple.
Yes.
And you filmed it with a Fuji camera and the iPhone, and you snuck the footage in there, and you didn't tell us what it was, but you shared it with us, and we had to try to figure out which footage was the iPhone stuff. And it was very difficult. I don't know if I even got any of it right, to be honest with you.
The beauty about the iPhone is that during that production, so there were two of us filming. There was my buddy who did most of the video production. His name is Tim Esty. He has a studio called Kensington Photography Studio, I think. I forget what the .com is. It's Kensington Photo or Kensington Photo Studio. One of those two. I just click on the bookmark and just kind of but for this project, he was primarily doing the video photography, and I was doing the stills photography for this couple. And like I came up with the script as I was talking to the couple when we were interviewing to see if they would hire me. And they were very big into music. And then just this idea popped into my head. It's like, let's make a video. And so we did. And so the iPhone was perfect in that it was able for me to show my buddy Tim what I was looking to do. And so like the camera movements, like she walks into frame and I have the camera down by the sidewalk, and the motion was for her to walk out of the store, and then she would take the earbuds from her belt, put it in her ear, and keep walking. And so the camera is following that movement. It's going from her feet up to her legs, up her legs. And she was fully clothed, by the way, body, like nothing sexy. It wasn't bad.
Right. You were just following the motion.
Following the motion, yeah. So, God, I'm doing a spot-on job of describing things tonight. So I'm following up, and as it gets to her belt where the Walkman is sitting, the camera freezes, and that for enough time for her hands to grab the earbuds, and then as she grabs the earbuds, the camera follows her hand right up to her face where she puts it on. Music starts, and then it keeps going. And so, like for pre-visualization on the spot, it was an amazing thing to have. And moreover, after we got all the footage in, I used a lot of that footage from the iPhone because the movements that were happening on the Fuji camera weren't the movements that I was totally looking for. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah,
I mean, the iPhone is just such a great video camera that you can make it as light as you want or as heavy as you want with cages and all these other accessories. It is incredible.
Yeah. And especially with the 15, the 14, and really the 15 with the action mode. The action mode with the 5X will give, I mean, it is almost 3D looking. Just the way that it can
on this camera.
Well, it just the way that it can focus on, because of the way it crops with especially the 5X, but with the action mode, the way it crops in to make it dead still.
Yep.
And I mean, Ruth's phone was starting to have issues, so she got a 15 Pro Max. I'm still rocking my 13 Pro Max.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to wait to the 16, but just we just were trying it. We were walking in a just saw something in the chat that threw me off. Thanks, Matt. We were just leaving a restaurant in the parking lot. She was walking. I was walking one hour over. I said, just videotape me as you're walking.
I think
don't try to keep
the chat.
Yeah. And it was like, don't try to keep it steady. Just make sure I'm in the frame somewhere.
Yep.
So she's walking along, we're both trying not to get run over by cars in the parking lot, because people are idiots in the parking lot when you drive. And she's just holding it up with one hand. So she's bouncing. I'm walking along, and it's like she has, a dead Yeah, it's like she has a gimbal and she's following me, and it's like dead steady. And it's focusing on me, and it's giving a little bit of a blur to the background. It's so focused on the subject. And I mean that's the Pro. Pro Max, so she could have a bigger zoom right now because we only buy cameras once every 2 to 3 years. So I figure might as well go a little bit higher. And we're not in Canada where it costs $10,000.
Yeah.
Greg, which camera do you have? Which iPhone?
I've got the 15 Pro Max.
So your astrophotography that you're doing with that camera is absolutely just crazy.
Thanks.
It is because I think I have the 13 as well, the 13 Pro Max. And do I have the 13 or the 14? Now I don't even know.
What color is it?
It is, it's in a case. I don't know. I have the 14 Pro Max.
There you go. Okay.
So just to show the camera, I have a custom thing. It's a Mueller-Schmid case.
Hold it up again, Mark.
I designed this from the remember that movie Asteroid City that came out? That Wes Anderson movie? The Jason Sudeikis, Schwartzman. Jason Schwartzman's character that he played had a film camera called the Mueller-Schmid. I think it was based off of a Russian Kiev camera, rangefinder camera, and so I love that camera so much that I made my own iPhone skin and got it printed. But anyway, that's besides the point. I can't do that kind of astrophotography like you're doing. My astrophotography is looking like worms mixed with really acid tripped pixels, and like are you a tripod or are you hand holding that?
Yeah, you have to use a tripod. I owe all my astro knowledge basically to Shane Mostyn in Australia. He's got that YouTube channel where he it's basically night photography with a phone, and he has done with Samsung Galaxies and Pixel phones and stuff like that, but he also does the iPhone, of course. And I've learned how to shoot and edit excuse me, and edit from his channel. And I started with the 12 Pro Max, then I went to the 14 Pro Max, now this one, and it just keeps getting better. We'll get to more about that though when we look at our recent photos, because I have a couple of astro photos to show. But I want to just get back into the chat room here for a minute. So a while ago there, Matt Hoffman says Tiny Shutter's dead. Long live Tiny Shutter. Yes, I will never forget.
Might as well.
Never forget. Yeah. And then he followed that up with Tiny Shutter. When we were talking about, I mentioned that it was a brand. Matt says, Tiny Shutter is a brand we never fully capitalized on. I've got a warehouse full of merch that I'm going to have to send to a third world country now. That's that sense of humor that Mark has. That's what
that Matt has, not Mark.
That Matt has, yeah.
You know what? I still have a whole bunch of Tiny Shutter stickers.
I
have that, but now I have to make filmish stickers now. So
yeah. Will Newcomb says hi from China. Hey, Will, glad you can join us. And then Matt said, this is Mark's easy breezy, beautiful cover girl moment. I think that's possibly when we were talking about the video that you did. I'm not sure.
Probably.
And then he's pretty chatty in here. Then he said he currently has the 15 Pro Max, but he's planning on getting the 16 Pro Max Ultra Plus. I'll probably upgrade a year from now. And then Will, he's looking forward to the 16 Pro Max. He's got a 12 Pro Max now, and Will, you will love it. Who knows what it's going to bring to the table, but the 15 Pro Max is amazing. And I know what the 12 Pro Max is like, so I know you're going to love that. And then Matt says, haha, no one remembers that movie. I think that's that movie that you just mentioned, Mark. So we're caught up in the chat room. But
let's admit it before we go on. we know what the biggest deal for the 16 is going to be. The big thing that Apple's going to talk about, it's unfortunately not going to be camera related, unless we're talking about pushing the 5X down to the non-ultra, but it's going to be AI.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And whatever they're going to deal with Google, either Google Gemini or OpenAI, with the agreement to be used as a large language model. So Siri can talk to us in even more confusing ways.
Mark's nemesis.
So one of the ongoing jokes that was perpetually on the Tiny Shutter podcast was my love for Siri when it was announced, thinking that it was going to be the best thing ever. We could finally talk to our phones like just a casual conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the future, guys. This is amazing. And then 2 weeks after I got the phone, this is the worst piece of in God's green earth. And damn it, they were able to, true to Apple's fashion, they were able to make it worse every single year. Like, just so today I'm driving home. I'm in the mood for rock. And so I'm playing like freaking Van Halen, anything with Eddie Van Halen with the guitar is just music to my ears. I was just in the mood for some like just really weird. And I am like I'm telling it, finally play the Top Gun anthem. And then it plays some weird like orchestra version of the Top Gun anthem. I'm like, well, no, play the Top Gun anthem from the Top Gun soundtrack. And then it was like playing the Top Gun soundtrack. I'm like, and the first song in the soundtrack is freaking the Top Gun anthem. And it skips that and goes right into Danger Zone. I'm like, no, play the Top Gun freaking anthem. And I'm like, all right, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. I pull over into a gas station to check if that soundtrack is no longer in Apple Music. No, it's right there. First choice. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so stupid. And so I keep driving. I finally put on the right song and going. And then I ask it to play Purple Rain by Prince. And I don't know what the hell Siri was doing, but she went, I'm sorry, I can't sing right now. I'm like, I'm not asking you to sing. What? Where did this come from? You stupid diva. What are you, am I a record producer? No, I ask you to play a song, not sing a song, you stupid bag of circuits. Steve Jobs must be rolling in his grave, laughing his ass off, and just tugging at it, just enjoying the laugh from beyond. Because this is, I hate Siri. There's nothing that Siri does that is good, in my opinion. Siri is a waste of space. She can't even think for herself. She has to talk to freaking Apple's headquarters to even pretend that she's having a thought. And she can never understand. Oh no, I would take that back. She can understand because I see the text show up when I ask her to do something, or you know, whether I'm dictating a text or picking a song, the correct words will appear. Then they'll suddenly change to the incorrect thing, and she'll proceed with that. I'm like, where are you getting this? Why are you doing this? You stupid. I can't break this because I don't have Apple Care. Like, what? You're doing this on purpose at this point. I really think that AI is here and is just screwing with me.
I am going to make a clip out of what you just said, and I'm going to probably post it as a separate video because you've heard of Jim Dalrymple.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I was having a Lewis Black moment, though.
Well, no, that sounded more like a Jim Dalrymple moment, because Jim has been very, very vocal on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. I call it Twitter, about
Twitter.
Siri. He can't stand it.
And doesn't he work for Apple now, or is he no longer?
No, he's retired. He used to.
Okay.
He started. Or he
I remember
one
the
of the ones that
Dalrymple
started
report.
Mac Rumors, I think, or one of those publications or websites. And I mean, he used to go to the keynotes and things like that, like WWDC, all that, iPhone announcements, and but he's got a podcast called the Dalrymple Report, and on his podcast he talks about his hate for Siri, because it can't even set, as he would say, an effing timer.
Yeah.
So he had, like, his house. He lives in Texas. His house is full of HomePods. I think he has 2 or 3 big ones and 7 or 8 little ones.
Yep.
All disconnected now. He's using Alexa because he can't, like,
he can't deal with it.
No, he's done. And
it'll connect when it feels like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel for him. Sounds like a smart man. But now that
what Matt said, I asked Siri to give Mark a hard time, and she never disappoints me.
Matt, at least she's listening to somebody. And now that Apple is going crazy with AI, now there's no telling what Siri won't do.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll just leave it at that.
So, Jim, if you hear this, we feel for you, brother, because Siri annoys the heck out of me too. Like, I use CarPlay when I'm driving.
Oh, don't even get me started with CarPlay.
I tell Siri to send my wife a message or whatever, right? And it just sits there and makes this weird sound.
Oh yeah, she'll go like she can't be bothered. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
I must be lucky because I have CarPlay and it works great for me.
Siri does?
Yeah.
Mark, this is a family friend of the show.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah. Until you brought up Siri.
Well, yeah. I don't believe it. No, I mean, I can hit the little button that says, "Tell Ruth I'm here." Yeah. And it'll say, okay, which phone number, mobile or office? I'll say mobile. Okay, I'll send it.
I got a HomePod behind me, and it just said, "I'm sorry, I can't respond to that."
See, I'm telling you, it doesn't matter where it is. She knows me, and she's with me.
Oh man, it's annoying. It's annoying.
And we have proof now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Well, okay, so let's move on to before we before Mark's head blows up.
Yeah.
Well, one fond memory I have of Siri is
one.
Tiny Shutter. I forget what I did, but I think it was your birthday, Mark, and I typed all this stuff out, and of course when your iPhone reads out loud, it's in Siri's voice.
Yeah,
and I got it to read like a birthday greeting to you or something like this, and it just annoyed you to no end. But anyway, so we'll move on now to we've covered what happened with Tiny Shutter and all that stuff. So it's from my perspective, and I'm sure from yours too, Dave, it's sad to see it go like that, but change is constant, and and it's
there's
also
time
inevitable.
for everything, and there's times for everything, and time to move on.
That's right. Yeah. So now we're going to go on to our recent photos. So Mark has sent us a couple, and this is an exception that I will only allow with you, Mark, because yours are not iPhone photos, and that's okay. It's not about the camera this time; it's about the photographer and about the photos themselves. So I'm gonna put them up on the screen here. This is a picture that you've shared with us in the past, and I really think it's cool.
This
so
basically,
we'll just to tell the little story behind it here.
So we just we just had a hurricane at this point. I forget what summer this was, but I was taking the family up to Newburyport, which is not far from where I live, and it is just nothing but fog, and this fog is not going anywhere. And I'm listening to the news on the local radio station, and saying that the fog is just everywhere, and I'm like, okay. And then I drive past Newburyport, and I'm with my wife and kids. She's like, "What are we doing?" I'm like, "We're taking a little detour." She's like, "Where are we going?" I'm like, "We're going to Maine, honey. We're going up to Kennebunkport." And so we drive up there, get some ice cream. And kids are having a blast. And this fog is just so thick. Like it is. I'm astonished that it's not going anywhere. And it took us like about 40 minutes to get up there. And so what you're looking at is Perkins Cove, and I am on a little walkway bridge that's cutting across the waterway into the cove. And what you don't see, because it's covered in fog, like everything in the back, that's all land. Like it ends abruptly, and it's just full of like restaurants and houses, and but because the fog is just this thick, it's making it look like it's just endless.
Yeah, into an abyss.
Yeah. And so I am shooting with the Fujifilm X Pro 3 that I had on loan from Fujifilm. And I forget what lens I'm using. I think I'm using the 35 millimeter lens, which is equivalent to a 50 millimeter lens on a full frame. And I just grab a bunch of photos, and it just looked absolutely haunting. And these are some of my favorite photos that I've ever taken. I just love these to pieces.
Yeah, it looks like a scene out of that movie, I Know What You Did Last Summer.
I never saw the movie, but yeah, it's just, oh my God. Like,
yeah, I was thinking like a Stephen King or M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, there you go.
Film.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. And now when you okay, so shooting it vertical like this, is it because it just fit the composition better?
I took a bunch of photos. I took a bunch of horizontal and vertical. The vertical, I think, does better at giving the fog more character.
Okay, yeah.
Because the one thing I couldn't control was the alignment of the boats. When I did the horizontal photo, the boats on the left and the right were very askew. There wasn't that because right here in this photo, you're looking at it and it's almost like a triangular shape into the distance. You lose that with the horizontal photo.
Okay.
And so I took a vertical shot just to kind of keep everything together, and it retained the shape a little bit better. And again, like the other thing it does is that emptiness in the top part of the photo, where it can be considered negative space for the eye, but your eye just kind of goes towards that. It starts at the bottom and just drifts upward into nothingness, and the nothingness is what is so intriguing about this photo, I think.
Yeah, it's really cool. Okay, so no editing, I'm gonna say.
Oh,
yeah, okay. And you didn't need any. I mean, you don't need no dehazing anything or anything like that. If you did that, I think that would ruin it. Actually, it would ruin the essence of the image. So that is really cool. And I've seen this one, like I said before. You've shared it with us before, and I think it's really cool.
This is probably my most successful Instagram photos too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And you know what? I had no idea there was land in the background. I didn't know.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
I should show you what Perkins Cove looks like without it, because
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be
it's
interesting.
completely different. It's
You know
very
what?
small.
I don't know if I want to see it because it would spoil this one. But no, that'd be interesting. But yeah, no, it's cool. The water is not, it's I'd say very still looking, but with just enough waves to break up the reflections to give it that, um, that creepy
It's
look, and then a
unsettling.
few
Yeah.
birds flying around in there, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
Mhm.
So, Dave, here's your first one.
Yep. So mine's a little bit brighter, if you will. So this was taken right before the race that I had on Saturday, and the rain just stopped. So we had a steady, not a torrential downpour, a steady rain. So the waterfall there on the right side was going at a pretty good pace, and the water itself was flowing pretty good still. And I just like the bridge was recently redone, so it's fresh wood there, so it
Yeah.
doesn't, so it's not aged yet. So that yellow of the wood of the pine just kind of pops out at you, as there's no green anywhere still. We're not going to have green for another month or so
Where are
before,
you based out again?
Hmm?
Where are you out of again?
Pittsburgh. This is just north of Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
So we're
too.
yeah, we're still far enough north still where things are just starting to turn green. We have had an exceptionally light winter.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. I mean, normally we get less than you guys, than both Greg, you and Mark. We normally get Pittsburgh like 40 inches of snow a year. And I want to say it was under 20. So it's been very, very light snow. So just a couple periods where we've had really cold snaps below freezing.
That's pretty much what we've had too.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the same winter.
So I mean, we're still, as Matt would say, we're still in the middle of stick season, or at the end of stick season. But you got a little bit of green there, and the grass is green. And this is a county park that the race was held in. So this is like a nice little walking trail. And
I'd love to see with this photo.
Hmm.
I would love to see you do like a Four Seasons kind of deal with this.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
And then frame it in such a way that you're seeing all of it.
All of it, or yeah.
Yeah. Because there's this, what catches my eye is that there's no one around.
Right. Yeah.
And I love the waterfall, the walkway, it's nice and brand new, but like when you see it, if you could capture it in the same position in the springtime when things are starting to bud, maybe more people are starting to show up again, and get some nice candids of everybody walking by in the summertime when everything is like full on green and everybody, jogging people, and the water is dried up because of global warming that no one wants to admit to. I just went political. So and then like in the fall, I don't know what kind of foliage you get in the fall.
But it's brilliant. I mean, it's not Mountain of Vermont, New Hampshire type thing, but it's very colorful, very, very colorful around there. We just don't have it. It's been spotty the last couple of years, where there'll still be a good amount of green with the reds and the green, but then by the time the green then switches over, the other ones have kind of went off.
Yeah.
So the timing just seems to be off.
I mean, we're
not having that
El Nino, so I mean, yeah, kind of ruined things. But yeah, I mean, what this is showing me is a kind of like a slice of life, and yeah, I dig it. And anything with a waterfall is always
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the 16:9 aspect ratio really works with it too. You know, I think if you had gone 4:3, you'd have probably too much sky, which would kind of take the eye away from it, and then or if it was at the bottom, you might have too much sidewalk or path at the bottom that really doesn't add to the image.
And also, I wanted to have like the correct, the way it kind of goes from, you know, middle right, kind of going bottom left.
Yeah.
To kind of stretch out the photo that way.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to see is that I want to see that bridge age.
Yeah.
Because it almost becomes a focal point here. And I want to see how it changes over time. I think if you're going to have that in your composition, then seeing that change over time, I think, is going to be worth. It just enhances the photo.
So if you see anybody come along, Dave, with a can of wood treatment stuff, knock it out of their hands. Tell them to leave it alone.
But no, that's part of the story, though. So
yeah,
I mean, he only has to worry about it 3 more times. So
that's true.
Yeah,
that is true.
Right. Yeah, no, that's an interesting concept, Mark, about the 4 seasons. It would be interesting,
and a great band.
Yeah. So this is one of my astro shots that I did, and this is obviously Orion, the Orion the Hunter, I call it, the constellation. And what was I doing? I was coming home from. I did a presentation on iPhone photography at a photography club nearby, and I was coming home that night, and I thought, wow, like the moon's not out. I could probably get some decent astro shots. So I made a little detour to this little back road that I've been down before and took some photos. And I didn't have my tripod with me, but I had enough stuff in the car. I could just put it on the tonneau cover of the truck, rather, tonneau cover of the truck, and I could prop my phone there and use the timer and do a 30-second night shot. So this is just the Apple camera, 30 seconds, night mode. And now I did crop it a little bit. About 10% of it's been cropped out. And there was, in the top right corner, going, diagonally down across the corner, there was some power lines that I took out with touch retouch because they really took away from the image. So I had to remove them. They did, had I left them, I mean, yes, that's the fact that they were there, but I just think the image is better without them.
Yeah. Did you do anything special to the constellation stars?
No. Well, I mean, I think the glow may be a result of the editing.
Gotcha.
I edited.
Yeah, the blue color really pops on the stars.
Yeah, yeah. So I did the edit in Lightroom mobile, and it was a Pro RAW file, and I basically just did all the stuff that I learned from Shane Mostyn on his YouTube channel about how to edit. He shows how to edit these types of photos, and I can't remember what all I did, but probably a bit of dehaze, bit of clarity, turn the blacks up a bit. Maybe adjusted the whites to make the stars pop a little bit more. I really don't remember what all I did, but it worked, and it was cloudy. The clouds were low in the horizon, like low in the sky. And that's what you see there. Yeah. So it wasn't a perfectly clear night, but at least it was clear enough that I can get a half decent shot.
Nice. I like how Beetlejuice is nice and red or orange in that one.
Yeah, yeah.
No, this is really cool.
And so now, Mark, your second one.
So this one is just a little portrait of how I blinged out my XT5. This camera is my pride and joy. It is my workhorse, and I love it to pieces. This is my Mjolnir to my Thor. It's just such an amazing little camera, and on top of that, the camera is on top of my other pride and joy. I threw this in as a joke because, damn, I love this cooler. This cooler, it's called an oyster cooler, and is the one thing that I splurged on last year. It is. I paid a little too much for it. I'll admit that, but this thing can hold the cold like no one's business, and it is just such a cool thing to have. It is, as I would like to say, it's the Apple of coolers. Because
now it's not powered by anything, is it? Like there's no power to it of any sort to keep things cool. Like there's no refrigerant in it or anything.
It has these cartridges that you put in there, but they're just like just you know how you have those blue cooler things that you pop in the little ice packets. It has a couple of those, but they fit so seamlessly at the bottom, and they don't completely freeze either. Because the insulation on this is so good that if you were to put something frozen in this thing, it would stay frozen for a good amount of time. And so if you put in your drink would freeze.
Mark, I just happened to do a search for oyster coolers.
Yep.
And that cooler, I believe, is on the front page.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah.
When you said it was expensive, I was not expecting that.
It's half an iPhone.
What?
Yes.
Wait, it's on sale though. It's on sale on their website because it shows regular price is $605, but it's on sale for only $500. Or you can do installments for $45.13 a month.
Wow.
So the reason why
financing a cooler.
It's like this I love this thing.
5.6 kilograms for weight.
That's heavy.
Yeah.
It's like 25 pounds.
That's a good workout.
That's not that bad. That handle can switch to a strap. And it's much easier to carry from there.
Yeah.
But the reason why I bought this is because when I do weddings, I'd like to bring my own food for before the wedding, after the wedding, or sometimes even during the wedding. If I'm unable to eat over there, I'll just bring my own food. And the one thing that I always hated doing is bringing my own cooler. The ice would melt, everything gets all watery, liquidy, and it just turns into like a mess. Everything turns soggy. Like no matter what I insulate things with, like a container, water still ends up seeping in, and it just becomes a pain. Don't have to worry about that anymore. I don't need to put in ice. I just have those two little packets that I throw in there, and the rest of the space is perfect. I would have liked it a little bit bigger, but I'm fine with it. But it's going to fit everything I need that for a wedding. Like I could fit plenty of drinks, my sandwiches, my fruits. And I just think that the cooler looked great with my awesome looking camera.
Yeah. Oh no, it's amazing. It is a definite high end look to it. Definitely, it's a definite high end look.
Yeah, and I find it just amazing that we, as a show about photography, we just finished talking for about 4 minutes about a cooler.
I threw that in as a joke. I thought it was fitting.
No, it's pretty cool. It's interesting. But the camera itself, now getting back to that, just kind of real quickly, what is it about it that you like so much?
It's super fast. The image quality is second to none in my book. This is using a 5th generation sensor where Fujifilm is making like 40 megapixel sizes on an APS-C size sensor, and like just the processing power on this is amazing. The video files come out great. The stills look amazing. The amount of film simulations that it has is pretty on par, and it's getting up an update this summer to have one more. The manual dials are just everything that I look for. It's almost perfect. The only thing I would love more than this is the X Pro model. The X Pro models are the rangefinder style cameras, and this is more of a DSLR style camera.
Oh yeah, okay.
And the problem is the X Pros it hasn't been updated yet. Probably won't see another update for another couple of years. So, me,
what would be your favorite lens to put on there?
Oh, without a doubt, the 33 millimeter lens.
Oh yeah.
The 33 millimeter is their newer camera to replace the 35 millimeter camera, and that has a f4, so it's super fast, and it's about 50 millimeter focal length, and that's my favorite focal length. It would be that lens to have on it, and second would be probably the 18 millimeter, which is about a 23 millimeter, similar to the iPhone.
Mm-hmm. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And I really like the wooden handle on it, like the grip.
So all my cameras have that now. That is such a lifesaver. So what you're seeing is the wooden handle is connected to the bottom plate, and the bottom plate stretches across the bottom, and it goes up the side of the other side of the grip. So it's an L bracket. And the reason why I have this is because it offers an extra set of protection to the camera.
Mm-hmm.
I had the XT2 that I would use for weddings, and Matt now owns that camera.
Oh yeah, okay.
I have during a wedding, I had 2 of these strapped to my side. I usually wear a harness on my shoulder, and I have 2 cameras dangling on either side of me. I had to change out the battery on one of them. And then I put my arm down, I'm holding the camera, and I thought that I hooked it back up to the harness, and I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I dropped it.
Uh-oh.
Right on the pavement.
Ooh.
Camera cracked the back of the LCD, but it still worked fine. The L bracket took most of the impact.
Oh, that's good.
And I was very grateful for that. And now all my cameras will have that.
Yeah. Well, it's like putting a case on a phone, right?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. Dave, your second one.
Yep. This one was also taken on Saturday. This was just not too far past the start of the second loop around the lake. And this is kind of the main road leading up to the park itself. But this part of as they call it, a walking trail, is really just the side of the road. So you have the regular road going around, and this is an old county park. And so you can kind of see where they have the, on the left third, the little bit where it can go underneath and drain out. It's an artificial lake. And unfortunately, the actual tower, if you will, that's kind of right in the middle of the picture, just a little bit to the right. That's cordoned off, so you can't go on the walkway around it, unfortunately. I don't know if it was ever open. I can imagine you get some great pictures from right there, but I understand for safety reasons, you don't want people, especially kids, walking out there and, I can see teenagers and kids diving off, and I don't think it's that deep there, and it's not exactly swimmable. So you don't want to have any issues. I just like the way that you have the kind of the walkway framing in front of you, the road kind of going off in the distance, and you can see the little bit of waves kicking up by the wind that was hitting kind of towards the right side and coming towards the left.
Yeah.
And it was even though the rain stopped, it was still kind of overcast the whole time.
Yeah, this really would look good, in the summertime too, with the with the foliage and whatnot. But here we are, we're stuck in stick season, and but again, the 16:9 ratio does it justice. Probably would be again too much sky or too much of that. You went from a wood railing to a concrete and stone railing, which is interesting. But it would be too much of that, I think, in the frame. And does anybody ever go boating in there or anything? Or
yeah. Actually, down the road, around a mile behind me, in this case, there is the boathouse, and they rent canoes there and different boats.
Oh, okay.
That you can go on. People fish on the side of on the lake. There were a few people actually fishing that day.
Oh yeah.
Really bundled up because it was just barely above freezing with like a 10-mile-an-hour wind. So it was a bit on the chilly side. But yeah, there were people, out there fishing and just being out there.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Any further thoughts, Mark?
Oh, I mean, you captured it pretty well. Yeah, it does look freaking cold.
Well, I'll say this, that when you're out there and you're physically doing something, it's not as cold. The problem is that when I was going this way, the wind was to my back. But of course, then you make the right-hand turn kind of going down the road, and you make another right, and then you head back. And sometimes you're going along and that wind just kind of picks up and hits you right in the face, and just kind of, because it's hitting you right in the face, it kind of takes your breath away a little bit. And you're like, okay, sure. I have to stop, or I have to turn around so I can breathe a little bit easier, so I don't have just a breeze going right in your face, a cold breeze.
Yeah. Just looking at it, you can tell it's kind of cold. It has that feel to it, for sure. Well, this is my second astro shot, taken the same night as the first one, but this time with the power lines in the frame, and pretty much the same deal. Put the phone on the back of my truck and propped it up and whatnot, and some of the stars are actually elongated, so I don't know if maybe the phone shifted a little bit during the process. I'm not sure, but it's kind of a weird thing. Usually they're pretty good for being still, and this one is not cropped, but it is straightened. So I lost a little bit around the edges, but other than that, pretty much the same edits as before. And I just felt the urge to take some pictures of something, because this time of year is the least motivating for me for getting out and taking pictures. Unlike Scott Baker, who's probably still watching if it's not too late for him, but he's in the chat room, and he's been just nailing it with sunset pictures recently out in Nova Scotia. But so watching guys like him post pictures just about every day of stuff they've been shooting, it's been getting me kind of antsy. That's why I went out tonight before I come on the air to do a few sunset shots down by the water here, and I have to even look at them yet to see what they're like. But yeah, I just wanted to take a picture of something. So stars it was.
What's to the right of the photo?
More clouds, and then the more out of the frame, the more you go to the right, the more it gets the lights from the city that I live in.
Yeah.
So I pretty much that was almost as far as to the right as I cared to go, because then it would just be light pollution and more clouds.
I would have liked to see. To me, I like what you did with the power lines. I think you made it into a good character in this, or a good focal length. It would have been awesome if you could move it more to have the power lines more in the center, so that way the way the power lines are coming up from the upper left, going down to the lower right. I really dig that, and I wonder if you could crop a little bit off the left side and just leave the right side empty, or not do anything, or even try to do an AI fill to see if it would fill in the spot.
Well, I've got nothing to AI fill it with. I don't have Photoshop or anything, so
gotcha.
The only thing that I would have that would do anything like that might be Snapseed, but I don't even know how well it would do.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, but and this was with the 2x focal length as well.
I love it. I really dig the composition. If you take just a little bit off the left, I think it would you would bring more focus to the power lines. And
I could make it a 16:9. I'm covering my hand over the one side, and I could make it a 16:9 ratio vertically like that.
Oh, there you go. That I think that would work.
Yeah,
but I dig it. I dig the clouds. I dig the way the last of the light is shining on the little clouds and the that little strip of cloud there, and then the way the it just kind of dissolves into the night sky is pretty cool.
Oh, thanks. I think by the time like this was probably about 10:30 at night, and I'll bet you by 1 or 2 in the morning we were likely fully overcast because they were moving in. So
yeah. Oh, so that isn't like the remnants of the sunset. That's just
no, that's flat out darkness. But
cool.
Again, there's the light pollution from the city that I live in, and towns that are kind of nearby out in the country. I think they help contribute to that. The lightness. Mind you, okay, so in editing, I really lightened up that cloud at the lower third there that kind of goes across the frame. I just wanted to emphasize it.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was as prevalent as it really is, or as it looks in the picture.
It works.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And having the cloud really, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I would say having the cloud and the power lines add something where if it wasn't there, it would make it not as interesting.
Can I do that? Are you guys able to see me scribbling on this?
No. Oh, nope. Yep. Now we are.
Oh, there it is. It just came up.
Oh, hold on. This is awesome.
Oh, okay, John Madden.
Yeah.
So, okay. So here's what makes it cool. You have these clouds right here, right? And then you have this cloud right here. And then you kind of have a dip in there that the power lines are going through.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, that totally works.
I never really noticed that, but yeah, you're right. Yeah, interesting. And I had no clue we can draw on the screen while we were doing this.
I just saw it in the lower left corner. And I'm like, all right, try on. Sorry, I don't know how to get rid of it now.
Oh, that's all right.
I see that annotate.
Yeah, there's so much about Zoom I haven't even explored yet. But so those who are listening to the audio won't see what Mark did on the screen. If you're watching on YouTube, yes, you'll be able to see it. But yeah, that's interesting how you pointed that out and how you even saw that. Yeah, crazy.
Oh, I will have to use that again sometime.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, this has been a great episode with some great discussion, some comedic value, I guess you could say as well. And thanks, Mark, for coming on. You're welcome anytime, of course. That I've always said to anybody from the Tiny Shutter crew, the door's open, and you guys can come on anytime. I know Matt, he wants to come on again at some point, so we'll get him on to talk about something. But so you've got so Tiny Shutter, the website, is it still on? Is it still there?
It's still
the archives. Okay.
Yeah. Whatever.
No, but
the podcast
the podcast is still there. Yeah. And so we'll have links to those in the show notes if anybody wants to go back for a trip down memory lane. But now with Filmish, and it should be noted that that's FILM-ISH.
Yes.
So what's the website for that?
You just said it. Filmish.com.
Filmish.com.
Ish.com.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll link that in the show notes as well. And I'm sure it's just the beginnings of a work in progress for you.
Yeah. And the YouTube channel is also, if you go to youtube.com and do the @ film-ish, you'll be able to find it easily. I have a couple videos up right now, more to come. I'm aiming to do every other week as far as videos go. And
okay, cool.
Eventually I'll get a podcast started on that, and more to come on that.
All right. Sounds good. Well, we'll we'll keep looking for that kind of thing, and I'll put the links to the YouTube channel and the website in the show notes, and when you get the podcast going, let us know, and we'll share that with everybody too. Awesome. And so where can people find you to follow along with the progress?
You could find me on Instagram. I am Marc Sadowski there, Mark with a C. You could also find me on Twitter, also Marc Sadowski, Mark with a C. And the YouTube channel and the website will be updated as often as I can spare it.
Alrighty. Dave, how about you?
Yep, you can find me pretty much everywhere under Prof Pod, except for TikTok, where I'm Prof Pod PGH.
Alrighty. And you can find me, go to about.me/McMillan. Notice I said about, not about. About. And all my links will be there. I'm working on figuring out a better way to express that. I've been playing around with some of my URLs and whatnot, and I should say too, I wanted to bring this up tonight too. The website for the podcast right now, it's at iPhoneography.ca, and that will always be how you can access it. But what I'm thinking about doing is, because I'm running out of space, and right now it's with Wix, so I'm running out of space. You only got, I think it's 500 megabytes.
Oh, really?
But my personal website, McMillan.photos, is I pay for that, and I think I could incorporate the podcast into that website as like a separate section. I'm going to look into that, as opposed to making or finding another way to put it online. Like my website's on WordPress, so I got to see what kind of storage I got available. If it's tons of storage, then that shouldn't be a problem. I could have just a separate page just for the website type of thing, and I think I can make it work as long as it's not too much work. But anyway, in the meantime, to look at the pictures that you've seen on the YouTube video tonight, or if you've been listening on your phone and you see them on the podcast player, you can look at them in better detail on the website, for the blog post for this show, episode 115, at iPhoneography.ca. And you can also listen online if you want to do that as well. So, all right. Well, thanks everybody for playing along, and thank you for everybody in the chat. I wanted to point out too that Sean Kwitecki, when you were doing your rant, Mark, he put on here, "OMG, Mark, you make my stomach hurt." So that's
I
going to
have
be
that effect on people.
Yeah, that's going to be an awesome. That's going to be an awesome separate video in itself.
Oh, enjoy the views on that one.
Yeah. So anyway, well, thanks again everybody for watching and for listening when it does hit the audio, and thank you, Mark, for coming along, and you know, it's always great to have you on and talk some shop.
Hey, when you put that video up as a separate feed, make sure you put my socials in there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And when people know exactly where to send the hate mail.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, I will do that. So, and thank you, Dave. Thanks for sticking with us through your recovery from your half marathon. And we said in the pre-show, we wondered when you're going to run the other half, and that's going to be in May, right?
Now, first Sunday in May. First Sunday in May.
Okay. Well, you got some time to get your legs back for sure.
And thank you for having me on. I had an awesome time. It was great to be back. And I apologize for the extra editing that you'll need to do.
Oh, it's not a worry. I got to stay up tonight because I go in on nights tomorrow night, so it'll give me something to do while I stay awake. So
there you go.
It's all good. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching, and we will see you all on the next one.